Coach McGraw from Sam Houston State University. Coach McGraw has many hats. He's wearing a lot of hats at that school. So he's the corners coach, pass game coordinator, and the special teams coordinator. So he's going to jump up and he's going to talk about DB play. So go ahead, Coach. It's all yours.
All right, Paul. Appreciate you putting this together and allowing me to come on and speak to these guys. Coach Pope is actually taking a lot of information that I'm going to be talking about. Very similar stuff that I'll be talking about. Hopefully I can put my little niche on it to help you guys out. Let me share my screen real quick with you guys. To start off, guys, this is my family. Obviously the picture in the middle is my wife, my daughter, and my son, and the kids on the outside, the guys that I coach here at SAM, who've done an unbelievable job in regards to taking the coaching with what we've done here and what we do in our system. We're at FCS level. We play a ton of man, a lot of single high man stuff. So what I'll be talking about the majority of the time will be man coverage. I'm not going to read this stuff, word for word. It's there for you guys to see. But the biggest thing is for me as a coach is trying to develop these guys into quality leaders, both on and off the field. Obviously, we all know as coaches, you're teaching guys football, but those lessons that you teach them in football definitely go hand in hand with life. Great players with strong work ethic or great work ethics are going to help you win a lot of football games. It's our job as coaches to try to keep up to date on techniques and different coaching trends. And I like to believe that I do a pretty decent job of trying to keep up with those new techniques to help our guys to be technicians on the field. And then obviously our main thing as a secondary is to be a great defensive unit. And we know a lot of what happens in the secondary the success that we have in the secondary falls on how much success we have as the success we have as a defensive unit falls on how much success we have as a secondary. Some of the core values I believe in, guys, just being tough and physical. As a defensive back, we do a lot of pressing at the line of scrimmage. So our main goal and objective is to dominate the line of scrimmage and then play to the echo of the whistle. Our defensive coordinator does a great job of making sure we as coaches communicate the message of swarming to the football. Because swarming to the football is going to allow you to create a lot of takeaways and create a lot of big plays on the defensive side of the ball. And one of the things I love is guys who love to compete, have pride in what they're doing, and then at the same time are able to stay composed and poised throughout the game. And as a defensive back coach, I think if you keep rules simple, you stay consistent, and keep everyone accountable, you'll never be questioned in your coaching. My teaching progression is to draw stuff up as far as PowerPoints on the grease board, to show it to those guys so they can visually see it, to obviously then communicate it with them, to test them as far as learning from the scheme. And then we do it's walkthroughs, but we call it run-throughs because we want guys to constantly be moving fast. Then we rep it and practice and whatnot, and then we repeat everything. As a defensive back coach and just a coach period, I think if you go through either spring ball or fall camp, you need to always have something where kids can see how they are being productive. This also helps in regards to a kid ever questioning why such and such is getting more playing time and why he's not getting as much as those guys. You pull this up, you show them, well, here are the reps you're taking. These are the completions that you're giving up when you're being targeted. We're not big on passing yardage because I'll be honest, and you'll see later on in stats, we're really good up front. We held teams, I think, to less than 70 yards rushing. So teams, I think they ran 900 plays against us last year. 600-something of those plays were pass plays because they could not run the football. So what we look at is passing yards per attempt and then passing yards per completion. And that's how we kind of judge kind of where we are and compare to other teams and who we are as a defense. Every coach needs to have one of these, just a list of your drills, just to make sure you're staying organized. You're hitting all the different types of drills that you need to hit throughout fall camp, spring, and then obviously the season. So you can always go back and what I also have is a checklist. And so I will have my intern. He does my individual, but he'll go through and if I'm looking at us not doing something well, whatever, be tackling or open field tackling or, playing the ball in the receiver. I'm going to look back at when the last time we did those individual. And if it's 2 weeks ago, then I'll make sure that we hit it up to get better at it. This is what I kind of mentioned last year, 2019. We had probably one of the better defenses I've ever coached in my life. A lot of it had to do with our players. A big part of it, I think, also had to do with our coaching staff on the defensive side of the ball. My first year in coaching, it was in high school right after I got done playing in college, and I coached with a lot of guys who we went to the same college, and some of us were 10 years older than the others. A couple of us were playing on that same team, but we meshed really, really well together. And we had in 2 years we were 23-1. We played unbelievable on both sides of the ball, and it hit me again this past season that we had great players, but at the same time as a defensive staff, we meshed really, really well together. And I think that helped in regards to how we did statistically this past season. But getting into some of the drill work, and this, again, pertains a lot to man coverage. This is a drill we call the piano drill that we will start with before every single practice. It's just working on foot quickness. You have the DB tapping his feet, going backwards, going on and off the sideline. So he's trying to tap 2 times on the green, tap 2 times on the white, and repeat over and over until he gets 5 yards. You're throwing the ball out to make sure his eyes stay up and he's not looking down at the ground because their eyes and feet have to work independently of each other. The next drill we'll do is we'll go lateral. So now, again, they're just going just like you'd be playing a piano. You're going down the sideline, tapping your feet on and off that white line. And it's about foot quickness. It's about keeping your eyes up and being able to move lateral. So we'll go down left, and then we'll come back to the right doing this drill. 2-line drills. One of the drills that will work is simply just to loosen up our hips. And here I always start my guys off telling them what lead foot I want. So I either say left foot lead or right foot lead. So we make sure we're pushing off on both sides. And we're not always just pushing off our left foot, and we're not always just pushing off our right foot. So it's just the same drill there. Here's an example of it in one-on-ones. So you have this DB now backpedaling. You see how he has to open up his hips, and the receiver's giving him double move, so he has to transition back to that vertical route. And I'll talk a little bit more about this later, but we do a lot of when we get in that vertical position of having body presence on the receiver and actually keying through his near shoulder. So he's on top of him, and he's guessing now that it was a double move, so obviously the only place they're going to throw the ball is vertical. So he's guessing it and becoming the receiver. But if it was – and we'll get to a little bit later, so I'll wait for that. The next drill we have here is what we call a stem drill. And what we do for the stem drill, and I started doing this probably about 5 or 6 years ago, and it was I played safety, and as a safety you're always taught to scooch, but when I was playing corner I was always taught to backpedal. Well, now I've gotten in a position where I coach both safeties and corners the same technique, and because we are a big press team, we like taking away the air from the receivers. We want to constantly have tight coverage, so we will play scooch technique, and which we call challenge man, on the perimeter with our corners also. So for right now, this is actually a left corner playing inside leverage. So we're saying the balls to the defensive backs right. So the kid in the blue, this kid here is actually the quarterback. And in this drill, what you want is you want this guy to stem him or push vertical. And what we do in our scooch technique is we read the release of the receiver. This first one, this receiver is going to push vertical. So when we have our lead foot up, what we're doing is we're pushing off that lead foot, gaining ground with our trail foot. And then as that guy eats up our toes or runs up our toes, we'll flip and run with them, maintaining that leverage. So here, like I mentioned, we're reading the stem of that receiver. Now the receiver stems us inside. The majority of the time, if a receiver has a normal split and he stems you inside, he's going to cut it short. So he's either running a slant, a dig, a curl. So the progression that we teach for our guys is to see that stem. And as you see that stem, you match it working lateral. So as you see, he has his left foot up as his lead foot, because right now we're saying the ball is over here. He has his right foot back. And as that receiver stems in, he's going to work flat with them and continue to read his release. If it stays in or he breaks in, he's obviously driving to it. If he stems in and then starts to push vertical again, then that's where, as long as he's maintained his leverage, he'll continue to turn that back into a vertical scooch. So here you can see the kid's running a dig. So the DB does a good job of maintaining that leverage. Then he gets pushed vertical again, so he starts a vertical scooch to maintain the cushion that he needs. And the biggest thing this does, guys, is it gives the illusion to the offense that you're playing soft coverage, but at the same time, you're going to end up being, 3 to 4 yards closer to a receiver when he breaks on a hitch or he breaks on a slant to make a play on it. In regards, a lot of times you just play a straight pedal. I mean, you're going to be driving. It's only going to be a tackle that you could possibly get. So here you go. We got a 1-on-1 rep. He scooches, he lines, or he steps inside with the stem, and the kid breaks off on a slant. And now you can see the defensive back's in position to pick the ball off instead of just making a tackle or a pass breakup. Here we go again. I think we're going to get a slant again. The receiver does I guess you're calling that a skip release. A skip release, and as we watched film, we knew when they skip release, they were running inside routes. So the kid's able, again, to match the release, staying flat, anticipating and knowing that he's probably going to get a slant. And now he's in position, and if he actually got his eyes up, the kid would have picked the ball off and would have been a pick six. But he gets in position where he's driving to that outfield shoulder of that receiver because his eyes are on the receiver. And what we'll teach guys is when they're in that slant position or in that position to break on a slant or in breaking route is to just try to rip that back arm, because it'd be impossible for that guy to try to catch that ball with that inside hand only. All right, here I believe it's going to be a vertical route. So we got the left corner. Or no, here's a hitch, so sorry. So again, he's scooching out, reading the stem of that receiver. It's a vertical stem. The kid drops his hips. And now when he plants and drives, he's only about 2 yards away from the receiver. Whereas if he was in a normal pedal, the kid might be back here about 5 to 6 yards away from gaining ground. Here we'll have a vertical release. So the kid's running vertical. So again, this kid's giving ground. He's scooching out, pushing off that lead foot, gaining ground with his trail foot. He feels that he's running a vertical route by his demeanor and also, by his demeanor. So he opens up and he runs. He gets in position where, and we'll talk more about how we're finishing on balls, but he gets body position on the receiver while reading that guy's inside shoulder. So he knows the ball's not going to be back shoulder fade, so he can get prepared to play the ball being thrown in front of that receiver. Hip drop drill. What we do with this drill is this is where we've gotten in position. We're running with the receiver vertical, so we're filling them out with our near hand. We're keeping our eyes on that shoulder, so our hand is filling when his hips drop, and we're just matching and reacting to that guy dropping his hips while looking at that shoulder to make sure we know, well, if the ball's going to be thrown back shoulder, if the ball's going to be thrown in front of that receiver. This is essentially the same drill. They're just coming back at us. You get a little better feel or view of that defensive back and where his eyes are and where his hand is. So here we are in one-on-ones. You get an outside release. You can see his right hand gets up on that receiver to feel out his body, to know if he's going to drop his hips. And then as soon as obviously he drops his hips, he's able to feel that and then now start driving down the receiver. And he actually does a really good job of bursting to pick this ball off. Here's another rep here in one-on-ones. He has presence enough to get this receiver to really widen his release. But as you can see right here, he's putting that left hand, because it's a vertical release, on that receiver while maintaining his eyes on that inside shoulder. So his hand is letting him know the hips are dropping, and then his eyes seeing that shoulder open, allowing him to understand that that ball is going to be thrown behind him. So he's got to be able to plant that right foot and start driving back down to finish the route. All right, cheetah drill. This is a drill that we do, again, to get our guys to loosen up their hips and then start to get in a position where they have to get their eyes to a receiver's hip as he's running vertical. So what I'm doing here is I'll have them buzz their feet initially, and then I'll point a direction. Both of them will start to run the direction I'm pointing. I'll do it 2 or 3 times, and then what I'll end up doing is pointing up. When I point up, whichever side they're going, that lead guy becomes a receiver. The trail guy becomes the defensive back. So now this kid knows he is rolling in to become the receiver, so I just got to get my eyes at near hip and start to work in a position to get body presence on that receiver. All right, break and drive progression. This is at one of my previous schools, but what we do, and I only do this drill like once in the summer, once in the spring, and probably once at the beginning of fall camp. I have all the guys line up. I tell them, all right, we're going to be in a left foot lead. So they get in the left foot lead stance, knowing that we're breaking to the right. So I teach T-plant. All right. So what I have them do is they get in that left foot lead stance. I give them a command of go. Every kid should be picking up their left foot right now, turning it at an angle within the framework of their body, planting their full foot in the ground, all right, and then replacing it. So it's just getting muscle memory, muscle mechanics, of them understanding how we want to break when we break to the right. So the next progression of this would be 1 sound, 2 steps. So now they're picking up that left foot, turning it, putting it in the ground, and they're picking up their right foot, which would be their lead foot to the break, picking that up and taking a step. So it's 1 command, 2 steps. So it's go, and then it's left foot, right foot. Go, left foot, right foot. Go, left foot, right foot. And then we'll put it together for a full break. So now it's 1 command, 3 steps. So they're picking up that left foot, trying to get it turned, put that whole foot in the ground, all right, which would be their plant foot. And they're going to pick up their right foot, turn that toe pointed the direction that they're going, which would be a 45-degree angle to the right, and then drive that finish leg through. So this kid right here in the front is doing a really good job as far as what we're wanting out of that drill, finishing through, driving that left leg up. So you can see he gets that foot turn, he gets the whole foot in the ground, he gets that lead foot, that right foot, and that toe pointed to the direction he's going, and he's driving that left foot up. The thing you want to try to get kids to avoid doing is planning with this left foot here, and then if they're going like we're going to their right, picking up this foot, and I call it a negative break, replacing it behind their left foot. So if they're doing that, that's obviously a negative break. It's taking 1 step, 2 steps away from them driving to the man that they're playing. But if they can at least keep this right foot where it's at and roll over, or be able to pick it up and point that toe the direction they're going, they're going to be gaining ground. All right, so now we'll transition this drill or that technique into what we call rapid fire. So this rapid fire drills, we have a defensive back on each side of me. All right, this kid is in the left foot lead, and he should be planting with his left foot every time. This kid is in a right foot lead. He should be planting with his right foot every time. I only have him break 3 times. You can have him break however many times you want. And what I do is I've gotten away from using sounds and whistles and actual drills that we do where guys are having to read. Either I or I have a GA simulate being a receiver. And so the DB now is looking at the hips of either me or the GA, knowing when to break. And so now that gives them used to playing a receiver and seeing a receiver hips drop and knowing when to break. And so what I have them do is they start back pulling, my hips will drop, they'll break and drive, they'll come back to the line. As soon as they get back to the line, they'll start their pull on their own, and we'll repeat it 3 times. So the third time, they're just finishing all the way through. Sometimes I have them finish all the way through. The first guy will grab the ball. There'll be one ball. The first guy there will obviously grab the ball. Or like here in this picture, I have 2 GAs here. They're throwing a ball to the guy to their side. And the thing you obviously, because it's a 0-degree break, they're coming straight back down. You want to get those guys when they break to try to keep those hips square and those shoulders square. And I always tell my guys, have the weight of your shoulders over your knees when you backpedal and when you transition. That way, when you start the transition coming forward, you're going to be falling forward and bursting out coming forward. If the weight of your shoulders are behind your knees, typically guys get on their heels, and that's when they fall on their butts when they go to transition forward or they pause. All right, triangle drill. The drill what we'll do is we'll have these defensive backs square toes on the line. It's usually about, when I start off, I put it about probably 3 yards. As we get better, I'll try and move it out to 4 to 5 yards. And so what you're doing is you're having, as you can see, there's 4 different ways you can do it. I believe this one is open left, finish left. So that's all you're doing on the command. He's going to speed turn or pivot on that right foot, drop that left, open to get to this line here, that 15-yard line. Once I see his left foot touch that 15-yard line, I'm tossing the ball out. And so now that kid has to understand, okay, I got to transition my ass out of this break to be able to get my eyes, chin, and hips back around to make a play on the route. And so now this obviously gets them going to burst and run through the ball to finish routes. So like I said, we'll go open left, finish left, open right, finish right. We'll go open left, finish right. So that means now the kid is speed turning, and then open right, finish left. So here's an example of the actual drill. So this one is open left, finish left. So as you can see, as soon as his left foot plants on that line there, I'm tossing the ball up. And these guys have gotten conditioned to, as soon as that foot plants, they're getting their head around, they're bursting out, and they're driving that. Here he's driving that right foot up to gain ground and not have a negative break. And as these guys get better, what you do, like I mentioned, you can start moving these cones, their start marker, further away. So here's an example of the drill transitioning or translating to one-on-ones. So the receiver opens up his hips because he's playing scooch. He feels the guy's running vertical. And then he sees those hips drop. So now he's planting that right foot to start transitioning back down to finish the route. Now he needs to shoot his hands out, obviously, and catch the ball. Here's a look at it in game clip. And this isn't man coverage, this is zone, but it ends up working out to where, since we've done those drills, he's a thirds player. They happen to be running a comeback, but he's able to plant that right foot and start to transition back down. So it'll be no different than him going open right, finish left. Here we go again up top. So the kid runs up his toes. He feels the cushion's eating up, so he's opening up. He sees that he drops out of the route. So now he's able to plant that left foot, start coming back down tight inside that cone, 45-degree angle, and finish on the receiver for a pass breakup. All right, shoulders and hands drill. This is a drill this is another one of the other drills that we do before practice. You know, as you start to get in the season, for us at least, you'll start losing individual, but we do this because, again, our defensive backs, because we play man coverage, get in this position a lot as far as their eyes away from the ball. And so this drill, this first picture here, the inside guy is the DB, the outside guy is the receiver. And like I mentioned to you guys before, we read that inside shoulder to know if the guy's going to open up and it's going to be a back shoulder or if the ball is going to be thrown vertically. And so what we have is I'll give a command of run. And so these guys will be stationary, just sitting there, but they'll be acting like they're running. So their arms will start pumping. When I say ball, the receiver all these guys are working independently. So the receiver has the option to either show like it's a vertical catch or open up his shoulders like it's going to be a back shoulder fade. Now what we do is I will teach the defensive back to reach with that inside hand to go under the first arm and and on top of that far arm. That way, again, if he's trying to catch that ball, he's going to have to catch it with his inside hand and get his thumb turned over. And I feel it's a pretty difficult catch for him to make. But if we just pull down either both of them or we reach for that inside arm, then that's all you're doing is pressing the ball back into the receiver. So we try to get under that first one and get over that second one. If he turns back to us, we want to try and split both of those hands. So here's a pretty good picture of it here. As you can see, that DB is getting under the first, over the second. And so here's the drill in action as far as film. As you can see, it's a low tempo drill, but if you do this over and over and over every single day before practice, it becomes a habit. Here we are in a game, and what I'll do is actually go to the tight, so you get a better clip of it here. It'll be the defensive, he'll be over here. So as you can see, he's running vertical with them. He knows right now that ball is going to be thrown in front. So he knows that receiver's hands are going to be shooting in front. So he does a good job of getting that left hand up now. And he gets it up there late, but he splits the hands and reaching for that far hand to make the ball incomplete. The defensive back will be to the right as we see it. And so here, I believe it might be, the kid's opening his shoulder. So as he opens up his shoulders, he knows the ball's going to be back shoulder. And so what we teach, again, is we see that shoulder open, we're going to work back through the man and then start tracking back to where the ball's coming from with our eye progression. And he starts to do that, and the ball's not there yet, so he actually finds the ball. And so now he's able to rip with that right hand to dislodge the ball from the receiver. All right. So again, this is another step of working those shoulders and hands. Now we have the defensive back on his knees facing away from the receiver. The guy who's standing up is the receiver. So it's the same thing. I'll say run, I'll say hands, and they'll shoot their hands. They'll shoot their hands in front of the guy, like right over top of his head, or they'll go to the side. And now the defensive back, when he hears hands, his job is to flip his head straight up to find the receiver's hands to split them. So here we'll do it to where this simulates a lot of fade balls in the red zone here. This picture where the defensive back gets in front of the receiver, because what I've taught my guys is you want to try to get belly to belly on a receiver in the red zone, all right, especially when his shoulders opens, so you can try to take away space and take away air for the ball to be completed and split them. So here's an example of it here at the bottom. I think the tight is probably a better picture of it. So he'll be to the left over here. So he gets in a position right now where that shoulder opens. He opens up with the shoulders, and you can see that receiver's hands comes up, and he's doing a really good job of splitting those hands. So obviously the ball can't be caught. All right, so fade drill. This is a drill that we'll do, and I think Coach Pope talked a little bit about this. And his deal is we will have we'll have a receiver or DB simulating being a receiver. The ball will already be in that guy's hands, and it's very similar to kind of what you've already seen. So here up top, we're showing a back shoulder fade. So that receiver is jumping up. He's opening those shoulders. DB is doing a great job of getting belly to belly, placing his hands inside of the hands of the receiver, and then splitting them and opening them up as you see. At the bottom, this is a vertical catch, so that receiver's shoulders aren't opening, so the DB knows the ball's going to be thrown in front. So now, as you can see, he's trying to reach to get under the first and over the second in the red zone. And so here's a drill in live action. It's a pretty good first rep of that DB seeing those shoulders open, seeing those hands shoot up, and then him getting his hands inside of those to split them. That's a terrible job. It's a pretty good job here of this kid. And the kid in the blue, his shoulder was hurt, so he couldn't be as violent as other guys. So here we go, some game film. Defensive back's reading the shoulder never opens. He gets in a position where he's in phase. And when we talk about being in phase and looking for a football, we always tell our guys to look straight up for a ball, especially in the red zone, because if his shoulders don't open, that ball is being thrown high and outside. And if he were to look back for the ball, all right, that ball's going to go right over his eyes or over his helmet. He's not going to see it. If he looks straight up, he'll see that ball dropping into where the receiver's hands are. And as you can see, like Coach Pope's guys, kid does a good job of reaching with that inside hand and reaching for the far hand. And I think he's doing a really good. I think he was holding the guy's inside arm with his right arm, which is pretty good. All right, here we got a kid who opens up his shoulders. And so the defensive back was actually in a dominant position. The receiver opened up his shoulders. He opens up the shoulders with him. And as he transitions his eyes back through the receiver to up for the ball, he puts himself in a position to intercept the ball. But this kid had poor hands, so he didn't catch the ball. The kid, I think, should have had like 8 interceptions his senior year. He dropped all of them. It's the same deal where he's in a dominant position. Receiver opens up 2, opens that shoulder up, so he opens up with the shoulder to play back through the receiver to where the ball's coming from. All right, wipe and replace technique. Again, this is a drill that we'll do before practice, and we're in a vertical position. And as you guys who are defensive back coaches, you know receivers are going to try and push off. So we work a drill so our guys never have an excuse of he pushed me off. And again, it becomes second nature for those guys. So it's set up like the shoulder and hands drill, but we give them a little bit more space. So right now, the guy who is inside on the green is a defensive back. Or no, he's a receiver. And the other guy is the defensive back. And so what we have is, let's take this picture here. The receiver is going to put his hand on to push off. The defensive back is what we're going to do what we call wipe and replace. He's going to clockwise wipe that hand down and then step to him, as you can see, step to him to replace his body back in position to get body presence on that receiver. So just like the other guys, I'm saying run, so they're pretending they're running. I say hands. You can see the guy right now who is on the white, so out of bounds is the actual receiver. And these guys here are doing a really good job of the drill. So he's putting his hand on him. And with this, he's going clockwise with his hand motion as far as a wipe off, and then stepping towards that receiver to replace his body back into him to get that body position that we want on that receiver. So here we go in one-on-ones of the rep. He gets in position right here, and you'll see right about there, the receiver's trying to push off. DB is wiping that hand down. Sorry about that. DB is wiping that hand down and replacing his body back into him to take away the air and the space for that receiver to catch the ball. All right, guys, that's pretty much it that I have on man coverage. Definitely willing to take any questions that you guys have. This is my contact information. Like Paul mentioned, I'm the defensive pass game coordinator here at Sam. I coach the corners and nickels. There's my cell number. You guys can call or text me whenever you want. A Twitter handle, email. If you DM me on Twitter, I probably won't look at it very much. I'm not going to get it. But if you email me or text me, I would say text me or call me if you want to talk about anything.
That was awesome, Coach. Appreciate you jumping on and doing that. Does anybody have any questions? Just go ahead and unmute yourselves and ask away.
Hi, I've got a question.
Go right ahead.
Hi, so really like the technique about kind of the shadowing and not going straight into backpedal or opening up. But a lot of the athletes that we work with, they're brand new rookies to the sport. They don't really know a lot about like watching film or reading receivers. So would you teach the complete rookies that technique because like your philosophy, or would you go more to the style of either backpedaling or opening up first?
Well, for me, I teach that technique because I believe in it, and we've had a ton of success with it. Now, my young guys, they will struggle with it initially. So I tell them, like when we're competing, doing one-on-ones and doing team stuff, if you want to because I teach backpedal too. If you want to backpedal until you get comfortable in drill work to start playing scooch. But I try and get them to do it as much as they possibly can so they can get comfortable and confident with it. Because if you just tell them, if you don't teach it or allow them not to do it, and if something you actually believe in, then they'll never get good at it, if that makes sense.
Yep, brilliant. Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Just go ahead and unmute yourselves. Ask away. I think that's it. Well, thanks a lot for jumping on, Coach. That was awesome. It was nice seeing all those drills.